Welcome to the May update of the Willoughby, New Haven. I've got a couple of things to show you this month. I've been kind of having a hard time getting this update going for this month, but the biggest project that I've been working on is backdrops. I've spent a lot of time in Photoshop and a few other programs to get more background buildings up around the layout, specifically in the Sterling yard area. But I did add a few areas in here. I still have my mock-up from last time, and I added a water tower. I put the water tower that was on one of my buildings in the Sterling yard area. I put that on there just for fun. I think I'm gonna keep this mock-up for a little bit because it's working out quite well, and I don't have the funds right now to get the actual kit for this area, so I will probably do some weathering and stuff on the roof and make it look a little bit more permanent. It actually kind of works visually enough. I'm still deciding on this dividing area here, but I think I'm going to add some detail along the opening to make it look a little bit more finished. So that should be coming soon. And I believe this is a new section here that I added behind there to kind of fill that back, or that part of the backdrop in. And I added another area over there which kind of ends. I haven't taken any video or pictures in here. This is actually kind of the first time I'm really looking at this alleyway, but this actually doesn't look too bad. So I've got some more cutting out of the, if you look closely, you can see I didn't cut around those parts that stick up, the chimneys or exhausts or whatever. So that I need to kind of complete and maybe add one or two more details. I've got that weird hillside part that kind of sticks up in the back there. I may paint that over or add something up in front of that, but I added a little section that I had for that corner, which doesn't look too bad, and then this hotel, which I did some work on Photoshop to change the signs. But overall, this looks pretty decent. I'm pretty pleased with it. I also added this extra layer of that building on top there to add some depth. So I'm kind of pleased the way this corner looks. It's come a long way if you've been following this channel. So let me take a quick break here to get over to the Sterling yard and show you what I've done over there. So this is the end of the line here in the Sterling yard, and I spent quite a bit of time in Photoshop working on that backdrop section, getting things spaced out and finished and adding the turf. And I'm pretty pleased with the way it came out. It's not the best, but I might add some things behind it. But for now, it kind of serves as a photo backdrop. So if I take videos and things from Sterling yard, I have a kind of a different angle I can shoot at now. So that way it's not just head on. So I can kind of have this in the background and it kind of blends in nicely. I added that little middle structure there as well, which was a printout. This structure, I think in the big light gray one in the back, that I think that's been there for a while. And this one on top here behind, I added that as well, which probably the windows are a little bit too big, but it just, the scale is kind of something you can really play with these backdrops, these flat printouts. You know, obviously make the ones farther behind smaller to show more depth, but for right now it kind of serves its purpose. It's kind of vague and indiscreet, so it works. That tank, I'm not sure if I like the angle of it, but I put it in there just so that everything didn't look so flat across the top. It kind of adds some variety. And then I added a few more of these kind of more residentially looking kind of structures on top there. This one is actually not bad because the windows are smaller than the ones in front, so it adds a tiny bit of depth. This one, I kind of like the way it looks. I like the height of it, but the windows are rather large for being, you know, that close. It almost looks like it's behind this one. These probably look bigger. These they actually are bigger. So I'm not 100% convinced on the scale of it, but it works. When you take a step back, it kind of, you know, blends in and doesn't look too bad. It adds some variety. I probably need a few more things. There's a few gaps in this area, in that area, but overall, when you come down and look at it, it looks, you know, much better than it did. I moved this one from, I forget, it might have been behind here. I played around with a lot of this stuff. This one also behind here moved with the smokestack. I think this is actually a, oh, I forget where that's from, but that's actually from around my area. And then I added this little one at the end here. I'd kind of need to take this stuff up and probably add more pavement and concrete and things, because that should really have not just grass in front of that, but road or something, I don't know, that kind of needs some work. In that little weird corner of the hillside that blends in with the actual hillside, that can get disguised probably with greenery or shrubs or trees or something. But overall, I think it's come a long way. Again, if you've been following the channel, I think it's a nice addition with all those subtle little additions. And some areas work nicer than others. I think this area probably works the best, probably just because of the scale change. Yeah, so that's the backdrop section of the update, and let's get into the next part. All right, so the next thing to show you is this stock car that I've been working on. It's kind of been a fun little side project that I had started a while ago. I had initially painted it, probably with rattle can. It looked terrible, so then I stripped it, and once I got the Vallejo black primer, I decided to kind of prime it and start over again. It was black for the longest time, and then I finally got around to actually tackling it and doing a better job. So I painted it with my airbrush, the brown, pretty much the brown that you see, and then I decaled it. The decals are all freelance. They're leftover decals from the oil or the tank car set of microscale decals that I got. So I kind of changed things up. I think it was the Erie, Kansas, and something else maybe, I don't know, but I changed it to the Kansas Erie. Seemed a little bit more appropriate. It doesn't fit on my railroad. Those New Haven folks out there would probably know better. I don't remember seeing a whole ton, if any, that I can remember, stock cars in the New Haven line. This area is not, I don't think, huge on moving cattle and livestock around. I know it's sitting right in front of the Willoughby frozen meat, but I'm just pretending that's more, you know, processed stuff than, you know, live stuff. So again, I don't think it's really prototypical for the area. I'm sure people can point out, you know, photos or, oh yeah, no, this business definitely did livestock stuff, but it's not a big part of this railroad, and I don't think it's a very big part of the prototypical railroad up here. So it was kind of a fun project to work on. So the decals are completely freelance. There's no Kansas Erie Railroad as far as I'm concerned. The numbers just were what I had in the kit, or the set of decals that I had. Missing the doors, I need to do those. I put a floor in. I can zoom in a little and you might be able to see that. So I added some wood that I had, which helps it on the inside a little bit better. I'm kind of just thinking this is just going to be, you know, a car that just gets moved around periodically from one location to the next on my railroad, but it doesn't really serve any industry specifically. So it needs a little bit more weathering. I think I probably went a little heavy on the black on top, so I need to lighten some areas up to add some contrast. I added KDs. Actually, they're not KDs, but I did add, it had the horn hook couplers, so I added the boxes that I could put Katie's into. I forget what couplers they are that I ended up putting in that are compatible with Katie's. They're ones I really hate, and I've gotten them on a couple of kits. They're like 2-part couplers, so they're like one part that fits on top of the other, and they're just kind of obnoxious to work with. They function, and it can get pulled around by locomotives and other cars, so it works. Everything's, you can check the height out, that works pretty well. They're pretty perfectly aligned, so it's functional, and that's kind of all that's important at this point. I haven't really figured out a purpose for it, other than it was a fun little project to work on. The trucks are really goofy, but again, it was a fun project. I'm still gonna, like I said, probably update some of the modify some of the weathering and add some more details. I might add some stuff, cargo inside of it, to make it look more like a utility or maintenance away car. I'm not really sure what its exact purpose is going to be, but it was a fun project, so I wanted to share that. So let's go to the next part of the update. All right, so I probably mentioned before that weathering, and like I just finished talking about the stock car, weathering for me is kind of never done. It's a work in progress. So I had been looking at a lot of prototype photos of locomotives on the New Haven line, and a lot of the weathering is like a lighter mud kind of color. So I tried to kind of make that a little bit more consistent among all my locomotives. This one I'm pretty pleased with. It came out pretty well. It's subtle enough, but not overdone. I think it's a pretty fair shot at it. So I airbrushed most of it, and yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I probably can add some more detail in the springs and, you know, oil leaks and that kind of thing. But for now, I think it's better than it was. It's an update, so let me show you a few more that I had been working on. On my good old 596, this did look pretty good for a while. I was pretty pleased, but I wanted to make it a little bit more consistent to the railroad, so I did lighten the trucks up a little bit. It's kind of hard to see, but I went with the lighter airbrush color. It's from a railroad Model Flex Badger airbrush railroad kit that I think I got, and I kind of lightened it up using that, the latest mud color, I think, or earth. I forget which one. One of them's more green. I want to say the earth one is more green. I could have that mixed up, but I went with the lighter one, and I added a tiny bit of the brown that I have mixed up. It's kind of just a mixed brown that I had, so it's not as light as it is right out of the jar, so to speak. The light's not the best at this angle for this car, this locomotive, but I tried to make it a little bit more consistent again, so it kind of matches more the railroad and the other locomotives with the Alco that I just showed you. So let me show you a few more that I did, and hopefully you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. So the lighting at this angle on this Alco is a lot better. This one I feel kind of came out a little too heavy, relatively speaking. It looks a little different on the video, but I feel like it looks a little bit too flat overall, so I probably need to bring out some of the highlights and darker areas to add more contrast. It feels more heavy than the other ones, especially the trucks, and probably the body. It's a lot darker in real life. The orange is completely different as well, which I think is I probably discussed this when I had repainted some of my locomotives, that the New Haven oranges are just so funky, and you look at prototype photos, and you know, depending on when the photo was taken, what year, what film, how it's printed, how it's scanned, how it's, you know, what your monitor at home is looking at, it's just the colors get really goofy. So it looks much better on screen here than it does in person, trust me. So I think the orange is a little bit better in person, but the weathering looks a lot better on the screen. I just noticed there's a weird little total clean spot here underneath the cab, which is kind of a little bothersome. I probably need to kind of fade that out. It just doesn't look natural. I probably need to clean the windows up a little bit too. But yeah, again, it's a work in progress. I think it looks pretty good overall. And again, I was looking for consistency with the more black and orange, the McGinnis paint schemes. I didn't go that light. I had initially gone a little bit lighter with the weathering on these, the RS11 as well. I went a little bit lighter, but I didn't use that mud color that I had as much on these. They're newer, so they should look a little newer, I would think. You know, they're a newer paint scheme, so it would fall to reason that the older paint schemes would look more dirty. Again, that's not always going to be consistent, just because, you know, things get washed, things get dirty quicker. Mud shows up differently on different colors, but I think, you know, I'm trying to go more to what I'm seeing in the prototype photos that I'm working off of. So let me show you the other Alco that I have, that I had weathered a while ago, and we'll take a look at that. So this is the Alco RS3, and when I weathered this one initially, you can see the really light spots on the door panels. That's probably a little bit too light for my liking. This one I still need to work on. This was in one of my updates previously, and I had talked about the green being kind of off on this specific locomotive. It's an Athearn. All my other ones are, I mean, I know it's a different model, or locomotive completely. The RS1s are Alco, and I'm sorry, are Atlas and Kato, and this one's an Athearn. It's my only Athearn that I have. And I think the color green is a little bit off, so I had some hard time. I tried to adjust it, and then I weathered it, and it just not really fully pleased with it. In person, again, being on screen, it looks a little different. The trucks look a lot different on the screen than they do in person. In person, they match a little bit better, but the trucks need to kind of be a little bit more coherent visually, and I think I need to add some darker weathering on this one. Again, it's a work in progress. Let me show you a little project I did on one of my other Alcos, and we'll take a look at that. So I had seen a lot of prototype photos where there's like a canvas covering that rolls down for these grills, and I tried my first stab at creating one. It's just tissue that I rolled up, and then facial tissue, and then I rolled it up and put glue on it, let it dry, painted it, and then used a Sharpie to draw the cords to kind of hold it up. It doesn't look too bad. If you look at it closely, it looks a little weak, but if you look at it at a glance, it looks pretty authentic. May do one on the other side as well, see how that one comes out. I might try paper instead of tissue. The tissue is kind of a little hard to control. I thought it would add for greater flexibility than paper and look a little bit more natural. The prototype photos that I've seen after I did this, that I compared it to, it looks like it sags a little bit more in the middle, like the cords kind of hold it up on the sides. So I still might futz around with a little bit. The color's not terrible, but that was a quick little evening project that I worked on. Let it dry. Next day I came in and finished it up and assembled it, or attached it. It's just barely on there with canopy glue, so I can take it off and clean it up if I decide to scratch that. But it looks pretty good overall. I think I probably need to lighten up the weathering overall on the bottom part of this to kind of match the other RS units that I have, so things look a little bit more consistent. And then behind this locomotive is my RS11. That's my Rapido. I get a little weary to do too much painting on this, just because it's so expensive and so finicky with all the pieces and things, that I don't want to damage anything or mess anything up where I need to kind of go back and fine tune things with touching it too much. So I could probably lighten some of that up and bring out some more of the details, especially on the door panels and vents and so forth. But I'm going to leave this one here for now for a while probably. But that's going to wrap it up for the locomotives. I'm going to show you one more quick little thing I've been working on, and then that's going to probably do it for the update. We'll do some running of trains, probably not ops. I was going to have kind of like a start to finish op session and show you how I kind of set that up. I still may do that at some point as a special episode or work that into the next month's episode. But let me show you a quick little bonus project that I've been working on. So this does not look like anything other than cat vomit at this point. But what it is pencil shavings that I've accumulated and used my Scenic cement to kind of create these low-lying brush kind of things. I'd made them, I want to say 2 nights ago at this point, and they're still kind of damp. I'm hoping that they get nice, hard, and crusty, that I can kind of pick them off like, you know, dried vomit cakes or something. So I can kind of position them around so I can get foliage on them and then lay them around the layout. I've got some areas where I'm thinking of, especially towards the back of my layout, in less visible areas that kind of need hillside shrubbery and things. And I was also thinking of using them as a transition piece on my major rear hillside that I've been making the puff trees on, to kind of transition from ground to hillside to foliage, this kind of stuff, to then larger trees. If this works, this is a technique I've kind of, I mean, it's not like I'm inventing anything here, but I've never seen this done before, so I have nothing to go off of. So I'll keep you updated on how this works. I tried to kind of zhuzh them, so to speak, to kind of get them to look a little bit more natural, so they don't look just like clumps, but so that they're a little bit more stick-like and so forth, and more random. So I'm hoping that once they fully dry, I did put a ton of cement on there, so that way everything would kind of stick together. And I went directly over my failed tufts of grass that I had shown. So hopefully they come off the wax paper pretty easily once they are dry. But again, it's going to be a work in progress, and then we'll see how they take the foliage and then how they actually look. I know my early puff tree experiments ended up looking like meatballs, so with a lot of this stuff, it's trial and error. So you have an idea, you try it, and then you refine it. So not expecting this to look great, although I'm kind of being positive about it because I think they will look good. But again, I won't know that until I get them on the layout finished. And that's assuming that they don't fail. I'm assuming this stuff is going to dry eventually. And then I should be able to remove them and do what I want with them. But I'm kind of thinking that the pencil shavings add kind of like a natural looking, like low brush kind of look to it. It's already almost the appropriate color. But if I add foliage on top in different amounts, I'm thinking in my brain that it'll look good. So we'll keep you updated. That's going to wrap it up for this update, and I will probably go to some trains running now, and then we'll see you next month. So stay healthy, be good to one another out there, and thanks for watching. Take care.